The marriage counselor's office smelled like vanilla candles and broken dreams. I sat there, watching Miranda fidget with her wedding ring, the same ring I'd saved 3 months to buy her 8 years ago. She wasn't looking at me, hadn't looked at me properly in weeks. "I think we need a pause," she said, her voice steady as granite. "Some time apart to figure things out." Dr. Peterson nodded like this made perfect sense. Maybe it did to him. He probably saw couples implode every day. But for me, Nick Grady, 38-year-old IT security consultant who'd spent the last decade thinking he had a solid marriage, it felt like watching a computer crash in slow motion. "What kind of pause?" I asked, though I already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Miranda finally looked at me, her green eyes cold as winter glass. "I've been offered a consulting project in Europe. 2 weeks, maybe 3. It would give us both space to think." "Europe," I repeated. "With Greg?" Her jaw tightened. Greg Carver was her boss at the PR firm, 44 years old with silver hair and a Porsche that cost more than I made in a year. He'd been mentioned in our conversations more and more lately. Greg thinks this. Greg says that. Greg has such interesting ideas about market positioning. This is about us, Nick, not about Greg. But the way she said his name, like it tasted sweet, told me everything I needed to know. Dr. Peterson cleared his throat. "Sometimes separation can provide clarity. It's not uncommon for couples to—" "Right," I cut him off. "Clarity. Got it." The drive home was silent, except for the rain drumming against the windshield. Miranda stared out the passenger window like she was already gone. Our house looked smaller somehow as we pulled into the driveway, like it was shrinking to match what was left of our relationship. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Inside, she went straight to the bedroom and started packing. I stood in the doorway, watching her fold clothes with the same precision she used for everything else. Miranda was always precise, organized. It's what made her good at her job, and apparently good at dismantling our marriage. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow, not next week, not after we'd talked more. Tomorrow. This is really happening." She paused, holding a blue dress I'd bought her for Christmas. "I need this, Nick. We need this." But there was something in her voice, a note I'd never heard before. Excitement, maybe, or relief. The sound of someone who'd already checked out and was just waiting for the door to close behind them. That night, I lay awake, listening to her breathe beside me. She fell asleep easily, like she didn't have a care in the world. Like she wasn't abandoning 8 years of marriage for a European adventure with her smooth-talking boss. I'd met Greg exactly 3 times, at the company Christmas party 2 years ago, where he'd shaken my hand with the grip of a man trying to prove something. At their office barbecue last summer, where he'd talked about his yacht while I stood there in my Costco polo shirt. And at Miranda's birthday dinner 6 months ago, where he'd shown up uninvited and somehow made himself the center of attention. Each time, I'd gotten the same vibe. Greg Carver thought he was better than everyone else in the room, especially me. And maybe he was right. He had the corner office, the expensive car, the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about money. I fixed computers and installed security systems for small businesses. Not exactly glamorous. But Miranda had married me, not him. Or so I'd thought. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. No goodbye, no last conversation. Just an empty space in the bed and a note on the kitchen counter. "I'll call you when I get there. Use this time to think about what you really want." What I really wanted was my wife back. But as I stood there in my empty kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted like disappointment, I started to wonder if that ship had already sailed. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Eli. "Want to grab lunch? You sound like you need beer and terrible advice." Eli worked in security too, but for a big corporate firm downtown. He made twice what I did and had opinions about everything. Right now, terrible advice sounded perfect. We met at Murphy's, a dive bar that served burgers and didn't ask questions. Eli took one look at me and ordered 2 beers without asking what I wanted. She left, I said. For good? For Europe, with her boss. It's a pause. Eli snorted. A pause. That's rich. What's next, a timeout? A commercial break? She says we need space to figure things out. Right. And I need space to figure out if I want to pay my mortgage this month. He took a long drink. How long have you suspected? The question hit me like a slap. Suspected what? Come on, Nick, you're not stupid. Late nights at the office, weekend strategy sessions, talking about Greg like he's some kind of business genius. When's the last time she talked about you that way? I couldn't remember. Couldn't remember the last time Miranda had looked at me with anything resembling admiration or excitement. When had I become background noise in my own marriage? So what are you going to do? Eli asked. Wait, I guess. See what happens. That's your plan? Wait and hope? I didn't have a better answer. I'd never been the kind of guy who made dramatic gestures or fought for what he wanted. I fixed problems quietly, methodically, but this wasn't a network security issue I could solve with better passwords and firewalls. That evening, I sat in our living room, my living room now, I supposed, and tried to watch television. Everything reminded me of Miranda. The throw pillows she'd arranged just so, the candles she lit every evening, the stack of magazines she never quite got around to reading. My phone rang. Miranda. Hi, she said, and I could hear voices in the background. Laughter, music. How's Europe? Beautiful. We're in Prague. The architecture is incredible. We? Not I. We? That's great, I said, though it came out flat. How are you doing? Are you eating okay? Like I was a child she'd left with a babysitter. I'm fine. Just working on some projects. Good. That's good. Listen, I should go. We have an early meeting tomorrow. Another we. I wanted to ask who we was exactly, but I already knew. Sure. Have fun. Nick? Her voice softened. I do love you. I hope you know that. But love wasn't the problem, was it? Love was what you felt. What you did about it was something else entirely. After she hung up, I walked through the house, really looking at it for the first time in months. 8 years of shared life. Photos from our honeymoon in Cancun. The coffee table we'd picked out together at IKEA. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner and talked about our days. When had we stopped talking about our days? I found myself in my home office, staring at my computer setup. 3 monitors, enough processing power to run a small business. Security software that could crack most basic passwords in under an hour. Tools of my trade. On impulse, I opened a browser and searched for Greg Carver. His LinkedIn profile popped up immediately. Harvard MBA. Previous positions at 3 major firms. A photo that looked professionally taken. All confident smile and expensive suit. Then I found his Facebook page. Privacy settings loose enough to drive a truck through. Photos of his house, mansion really, in the suburbs, his Porsche, his boat, his wife Janine, a blonde woman who looked tired in every photo, and there, posted just 6 hours ago, a picture of Prague's city center at sunset. The same view Miranda had probably been looking at when she called me. I stared at that photo for a long time, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger, exactly. More like clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. Miranda wasn't coming back from Europe the same person who'd left. Maybe she wasn't coming back at all. But I was still here, still in our house, still surrounded by the life we'd built together. Still Nick Grady, the guy who fixed things when they broke. The question was, what exactly needed fixing? 3 days into Miranda's European adventure, I was starting to understand the real meaning of silence. Not the comfortable quiet of a long marriage, but the hollow echo of a house that felt too big for one person. I'd been working from home more, taking on extra security consulting jobs to keep my mind busy. Nothing like debugging network vulnerabilities to distract from debugging a marriage. That's when Tasha called. Tasha Reynolds was Miranda's best friend since college, the kind of woman who knew everyone's business and wasn't shy about sharing it. She worked in marketing at a competing firm and had opinions about everything, especially other people's relationships. "Nick, how are you holding up?" The concern in her voice felt genuine, which surprised me. Tasha and I had always gotten along fine, but we weren't exactly close. "I'm managing, just keeping busy with work." "That's good. Work helps." A pause. "Listen, I wanted to check in because, well, I know this whole separation thing must be hard." Separation. So that's what we were calling it now. "Miranda seems to think it's necessary," I said carefully. Another pause, longer this time. "Nick, can I ask you something? And please don't take this the wrong way." "Shoot. Do you trust her?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look, Miranda's my friend, has been for 15 years. But sometimes friends make choices that—" She trailed off. "That what?" "That maybe aren't as innocent as they claim." My grip tightened on the phone. "Tasha, if you know something, I don't know anything for certain, but I've seen the way she talks about Greg, the way she lights up when his name comes up. And this whole Europe thing happened awfully fast." It had happened fast. One day we're in counseling talking about communication issues, the next day she's packing for Prague. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should pay attention, really pay attention. Because if I'm wrong, great. But if I'm right," she sighed, "you deserve better than being the last one to know." After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone for 10 minutes. Tasha could be a gossip, but she wasn't malicious. If she was calling me, it meant she was genuinely worried. I opened my laptop and pulled up Miranda's social media accounts. She'd always been careful about privacy settings, but I knew her passwords. We'd shared everything for 8 years. Bank accounts, streaming services, email passwords. The digital intimacy of a trusting marriage. Her Instagram showed the usual professional photos. Scenic shots of Prague, artistic angles of coffee cups and architecture. Nothing suspicious. But then I noticed something. She'd created a new account. A private one with a different username. I couldn't access it, but I could see it existed. Created 3 weeks ago. Right around the time she'd started talking about needing space. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Janine Carver, Greg's wife. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "About what?" "About our spouses and their business trip. Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow? Starbucks on 5th Street, 2 p.m. I'd never spoken to Janine Carver beyond polite hellos at company events. She seemed nice enough, if a little quiet. The kind of woman who stood beside her husband at parties, but rarely spoke unless spoken to. "I'll be there," I typed back. The next day, I arrived at Starbucks 15 minutes early and claimed a corner table. Janine walked in exactly at 2, looking around nervously before spotting me. She was prettier than her photos suggested, with sharp blue eyes and blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. But there was something brittle about her, like she was holding herself together through sheer will. "Nick?" She approached tentatively. "That's me. Thanks for reaching out." She sat down across from me, clutching a coffee cup like it was a lifeline. "I wasn't sure if I should contact you, but after thinking about it for days—" "What's going on, Janine?" She took a deep breath. "How much do you know about this Prague trip?" "Just what Miranda told me. Some kind of consulting project. 2 or 3 weeks." Janine's laugh was bitter. "Consulting project, right. Did she mention that Greg booked them a suite at the Augustine Hotel, one of the most romantic hotels in Prague?" My stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" Because I saw the confirmation email. Greg's not very careful with his computer when he's home. The reservation is for Mr. and Mrs. Carver. She met my eyes. But I'm still here. The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm. Maybe it's just, I don't know, a booking error. Nick. Her voice was gentle but firm. They've been having an affair for 3 months. I have photos, text messages, hotel receipts from their weekend getaway last month. The Prague trip isn't business. It's a romantic vacation funded by the company. The words hit me like a physical blow. 3 months. While we were going to counseling, talking about communication and rekindling our connection, Miranda had been planning her exit strategy. Why are you telling me this? Janine's composure cracked slightly. Because I'm tired of being the fool. Greg thinks I don't know, thinks I'm just the pretty wife who stays home and doesn't ask questions. And maybe your wife thinks you're the same. The trusting husband who won't look too closely at the details. What do you want to do about it? I want them to face consequences. Real ones. Greg's been cheating for years, but he's always been careful. Discreet. This time, he's gotten sloppy because he thinks he's in love. She practically spat the last word. I leaned back in my chair, processing. You want revenge. I want justice. There's a difference. Was there? Right now, sitting across from Greg Carver's wife as she laid out evidence of my marriage's betrayal, the distinction seemed pretty thin. What did you have in mind? Janine smiled for the first time since she'd sat down. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Greg's up for promotion to regional director. The board meeting is next month. His whole career depends on maintaining his reputation as a family man and ethical leader. And Miranda. She's been positioning herself as Greg's successor when he moves up. This affair isn't just personal for her, it's professional advancement. The pieces clicked into place. Miranda hadn't just been cheating on me, she'd been playing a longer game, sleeping her way to the corner office while I sat at home wondering why she seemed distant. So, what's the plan? Janine pulled out her phone and showed me a folder of screenshots. Text messages between Miranda and Greg, explicit photos, credit card receipts for hotels and restaurants, a complete digital paper trail of their relationship. I've been documenting everything, but I need help. Greg's smart enough to cover his tracks at work, and Miranda's good at managing her image. They need to be exposed in a way that can't be explained away or swept under the rug. I thought about my empty house, about Miranda's excited voice when she talked about Prague, about the way she'd looked right through me in counseling. I'm in, I said. Janine's smile widened. Good, because I have some ideas. Over the next hour, she outlined what she knew, Greg's patterns, his weaknesses, his schedule, Miranda's ambitions and insecurities, the company politics that made their affair not just personal betrayal, but professional misconduct. There's a company gala next month, Janine said. Annual celebration, all the board members and major clients. Greg's supposed to give a presentation about the firm's future direction. Sounds like the perfect opportunity for a different kind of presentation. Exactly what I was thinking. As we prepared to leave, Janine touched my arm. Nick? I'm sorry about all of this. You seem like a good guy. Thanks. You too. I mean, you seem like a good person. We'll see. After this is over, we might both be different people. She was probably right. The Nick Grady who'd walked into this coffee shop was the same guy who'd spent 8 years trying to be the perfect husband. The one walking out was someone else entirely. That evening, I sat in my home office and really looked at my setup for the first time with professional eyes. Network security wasn't just about protecting systems. It was about finding vulnerabilities and exploiting them. I'd spent my career thinking like an attacker, finding the weak points that others missed. Time to put those skills to personal use. I started with Miranda's digital footprint. Email accounts, social media, cloud storage. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. Her password patterns were predictable, variations on dates and names that mattered to her. including, I discovered, Greg's birthday. Within 2 hours, I had access to her private Instagram account, the one she'd created 3 weeks ago. The photos told the story Janine had outlined in painful detail. Miranda and Greg at expensive restaurants, weekend getaways to mountain resorts, hotel room selfies that made my stomach turn, and the captions. Loving messages about finding happiness, about finally feeling alive, about being with someone who understood her ambitions, someone who wasn't me. I downloaded everything: screenshots, videos, message threads. If Janine wanted documentation, I'd give her documentation. But as I worked, something else was building inside me. Not just hurt or betrayal, but a cold, calculating anger. The kind of focus I brought to particularly challenging security problems. Miranda and Greg thought they were playing a sophisticated game. Corporate intrigue, secret romance, careful manipulation of appearances and opportunities. They had no idea who they were really playing against. The next morning brought an email from Miranda. Not a personal message to her husband, but a group update sent to me, her parents, and a few close friends. The subject line read, "Prague Adventures." "Having an amazing time exploring this beautiful city," she wrote. "The work is challenging but rewarding, and I'm learning so much from the experience. Greg has been an excellent mentor, showing me aspects of international business I never would have discovered on my own." I'll bet he has, I thought. The email included photos of tourist attractions, professional-looking shots of business meetings, and one group photo of Miranda with Greg and several people I didn't recognize. They were standing just far enough apart to look professional, but I could see the way Miranda leaned slightly toward him, the way Greg's hand rested on her shoulder a fraction longer than necessary. Everything carefully staged for the folks back home. I forwarded the email to Janine with a single word: performance. She replied within minutes: "Academy Award worthy. Check your email in an hour." When her message arrived, it contained a bombshell: Greg's company credit card statements for the past 3 months, hotel charges, restaurant bills, jewelry purchases, a paper trail of an affair funded by corporate money. "How did you get these?" I called her. "Greg's assistant, Patricia, has worked there for 12 years. She's seen him cheat on me before, and she's tired of covering for him. Turns out she's been keeping copies of everything, waiting for the right moment. Is she willing to testify if it comes to that?" "More than willing. Greg treats her like furniture, and she's planning to retire next year anyway. She doesn't care about burning bridges." This was bigger than personal revenge. If Greg was using company funds for his affair, it was embezzlement. The board wouldn't just fire him, they'd prosecute. "There's something else," Janine continued. "Patricia says Greg's been promising Miranda a promotion when he gets the regional director position. He's already started restructuring her department to create a VP role that doesn't exist yet." So, Miranda wasn't just sleeping with her boss. She was sleeping her way to a corner office that Greg was creating specifically for her. The betrayal had layers I was still uncovering. That afternoon, I drove to my buddy Eli's office downtown. His security firm handled corporate accounts, and he had access to resources I couldn't get as a freelance consultant. "I need a favor," I told him over coffee in his break room. "This about Miranda?" I'd filled him in on the basics: the affair, the fake business trip, my partnership with Janine. Eli had listened without judgment, occasionally shaking his head. "Yeah, I need to access some information, but I want to do it legally. No hacking, no illegal surveillance." "What kind of information?" "Social media posts, public records, anything that's technically accessible, but might require better tools than I have at home." Eli studied me for a moment. "You're planning something big. I'm planning something appropriate." "There's a difference?" "We'll find out." He led me to his office and fired up a workstation with professional-grade software. "What are we looking for?" "Greg Carver's digital footprint, public social media, business profiles, anything that shows patterns of behavior." What we found was fascinating. Greg was careful about his main social media accounts, all business appropriate, family photos, professional achievements. But he had a LinkedIn account he used for networking that told a different story. Comments on posts by attractive female colleagues, likes on photos that had nothing to do with business, messages to women in his network that walked right up to the line of professional propriety. Guy's got a type, Eli observed, scrolling through Greg's activity. Yeah, ambitious women he can mentor. And control. That was the pattern. Greg targeted women who were smart and driven, but junior to him professionally. Women who would see him as a pathway to advancement. Miranda fit the profile perfectly. There's more, Eli said, pulling up another screen. Check this out. He'd found Greg's divorce records. This wasn't his first marriage. He'd been married before, 15 years ago, to a woman named Rebecca Chen, who'd worked at the same firm. The divorce filing cited irreconcilable differences, but the timeline suggested Greg had left his first wife right around the time he married Janine. Pattern of behavior, I said. Textbook serial cheater, probably sees nothing wrong with it. That evening, I called Janine and shared what we'd discovered. She listened quietly, occasionally asking for clarification. I knew about Rebecca, she said finally. Greg told me they grew apart, that it was mutual. He never mentioned she worked at his company. Did he mentor her too? I don't know, but now I'm wondering. A pause. Nick, there's something I need to tell you. I've been thinking about this all day, and I can't keep it to myself. What is it? I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a cold slap. Congratulations? It's not Greg's. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. What? I've been having an affair too, for 6 months, with someone I met at my book club. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. Greg doesn't know about the pregnancy or the affair. Janine. I know how it sounds, but I was lonely, and David, that's his name. He actually listens when I talk. He's interested in my thoughts, my opinions. When's the last time Greg asked me about my day and actually cared about the answer? I understood that feeling better than I wanted to admit. Does David know about the baby? Yes. He's divorced, has 2 kids of his own. He's willing to step up, but... She sighed. It's complicated. Everything's complicated right now. The thing is, this changes my timeline. I can't stay married to Greg much longer. If he finds out about the baby, he'll do the math and figure out it's not his. And if he finds out about David, he'll use it against you in the divorce. Exactly. Which means I need to move fast on exposing his affair with Miranda. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here we were, 2 betrayed spouses planning to expose our cheating partners, and one of us was also having an affair. But somehow Janine's situation felt different. She wasn't using her affair to advance her career or manipulate anyone. She'd found someone who treated her with respect. What do you need from me? I asked. Help me accelerate the timeline. The company gala is still 3 weeks away, but I can't wait that long. Greg and Miranda get back from Prague in 4 days. We need to move before then. What did you have in mind? Patricia, Greg's assistant. She's willing to help. She has access to Greg's office, his computer, his calendar. If we can create the right situation, we can catch them in the act. Not physically, but professionally. Patricia says Greg has a video conference scheduled with the Prague team tomorrow morning, supposedly to check in on the project. But really to check in on Miranda. Exactly. And Patricia can make sure that call gets recorded and accidentally shared with the wrong people. I thought about it. It was risky, but it was also elegant. Let Greg and Miranda expose themselves with their own words. I'm in, I said, but I want to add something to the plan. What? Miranda's been sending group emails about her Prague adventures, playing the dedicated professional, learning from her mentor. I want to document the contrast between her public story and private reality. How? I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Leave that to me. I'm good with computers. The next morning, I positioned myself at my home office computer at 8 a.m. sharp. Patricia had sent me Greg's video conference details, not to join the call, but to monitor it. With the right software, I could record both sides of the conversation without being detected. At exactly 9 a.m. Prague time, the call connected. Greg appeared on screen in what looked like a hotel room, not an office. Miranda joined 30 seconds later from what was clearly the same location. "Good morning, darling," Greg said, his voice warm and intimate. "Good morning yourself. I missed you last night. Just one more night apart. Tomorrow we'll be back in the same room." They talked for 20 minutes. Not about business, but about their relationship, their plans for when they returned home. Greg's promises about Miranda's promotion, her excitement about finally being with someone who appreciated her ambitions. Every word was recorded in crystal-clear digital quality. But the real breakthrough came at the end of the call, when Greg's phone rang and he stepped away from the camera to answer it. Miranda, thinking she was alone, called someone else. "Tasha, it's me. No," Greg stepped out for a minute. "Listen, I need you to do me a favor when I get back. I'm going to need help with the divorce paperwork. I want everything ready to go." My hands froze over the keyboard. "No, I haven't told Nick yet. I figured I'd let him think this was just a trial separation for now. It'll be easier if he's not expecting it." Easier for whom? I wondered. Greg's lawyer is going to handle everything. He says I can probably get the house and half of everything else. Nick's business isn't worth much, but his retirement account should be decent. She was planning to take me for everything I had while letting me believe our marriage was still salvageable. I know it sounds cold, but this is my chance, Tasha. Greg's offering me everything I've ever wanted, professionally and personally. I'd be stupid to let Nick's feelings get in the way of that. The call ended, and I sat staring at my computer screen. I'd thought I understood the depth of Miranda's betrayal, but this was something else entirely. She wasn't just having an affair, she was systematically planning to destroy my life while keeping me in the dark until the last possible moment. I saved the recording and immediately sent copies to 3 different cloud storage accounts. Then I called Janine. "We need to meet," I said. "Today. I have something you need to hear." "That bad?" "Worse than we thought. And we need to move faster than we planned." "How much faster?" I looked at my computer screen, where Miranda's face was frozen in a smile that no longer looked familiar. "Tomorrow," I said. "We end this tomorrow." Janine and I met at a diner on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody paid attention to other people's conversations. I brought my laptop and a pair of headphones. "Before you listen to this," I said, "I want you to know that it changes everything. After you hear it, there's no going back to the way things were." She put on the headphones without hesitation. I crossed that line days ago. I played her the recording, all 23 minutes of it. I watched her face change as she listened, surprise giving way to disgust, then to cold anger. When it finished, she sat back and stared at the ceiling for a long moment. "She's planning to ambush you with divorce papers," she said finally, "while taking everything I have and letting me think it's my fault our marriage failed. And Greg's promising her a promotion that doesn't exist yet, funded by company money he's already stealing." We sat in silence, processing the magnitude of what we'd uncovered. This wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. Professional misconduct, embezzlement, and personal betrayal all wrapped up in one ugly package. "Patricia called me this morning," Janine said. "Greg moved up his return flight. He's coming back tomorrow, not Friday. Miranda's flight is the same day." "Why the change?" "He told Patricia there was a family emergency. But I think he's getting nervous about being away too long. The board meeting for his promotion got moved up to next week. So he's rushing back to manage his image." "Exactly. which means we have one chance to catch them off guard. I leaned forward. What are you thinking? Greg's planning to go straight from the airport to the office tomorrow. He wants to touch base with Patricia, review his presentation for the board, make sure everything's perfect. And Miranda? Her flight lands 2 hours after his. She's planning to go home first, then meet him at the office for what he's calling a debriefing session. The pieces clicked into place. They're going to celebrate, toast their successful European adventure, and plan their next moves. In Greg's office, after hours, when they think they're alone. But they won't be alone. Janine smiled grimly. Patricia's going to be working late tomorrow, very late, and she's going to have her phone with her recording everything. That's good, but it's not enough. We need something more public, more immediate. What do you mean? I pulled up my laptop and showed her the company's website. Look at this. Greg's been promoting the Prague project as a major success. There's a whole page about it on the company site, with quotes from satisfied clients and projections for future growth. All fake? Not fake, exactly, but definitely exaggerated, and all designed to make Greg look like a visionary leader. So what happens when the board finds out their star executive has used company funds for an affair? That his big success story was just an excuse for a European vacation with his girlfriend? Janine's eyes lit up. They'll want answers. Immediately. And if those answers come during a very public, very embarrassing confrontation, Greg's career is over, and so is Miranda's. We spent the next hour planning every detail. Patricia would record Greg and Miranda's private celebration. I would gather all the evidence, photos, recordings, financial records, into a presentation. Janine would present it to the board at the perfect moment. One more thing, I said. I want to be there when it happens. At the office? I want to see Greg's face when he realizes his plan is ruined, and I want Miranda to know I know everything. Janine studied me. You sure? It's going to be ugly. It's already ugly. At least I'll see them face the consequences. That evening, I sat down and wrote a letter to Miranda. Not an email, but a handwritten one. Something permanent. Dear Miranda, I began, but stopped. What do you say to someone who's been betraying you while pretending to work on your marriage? I started over. Miranda, by the time you read this, you'll know I know everything. The affair, the fake business trip, your plans for divorce, Greg's promises to you, all of it. This isn't about revenge. This is about consequences. You made choices, and those choices have results. You lied, cheated, and planned the destruction of our marriage while I believed we were working on it. I'm not angry anymore. Anger requires caring about someone's opinion of you, and I no longer care what you think. I'm not hurt anymore either. Hurt requires surprise at someone's cruelty, and you've shown me exactly who you are. What I am is free. Free from wondering what I did wrong. Free from trying to fix something that wasn't broken. Free from caring about someone who stopped caring months ago. You wanted a pause in our marriage. Consider this the end of the recording. Nick P.S. I've moved out. The house is yours until the divorce is final. I think you'll find the legal process much more complicated than Greg led you to believe. I sealed it and left it on the kitchen counter. Then I packed a bag and drove to a hotel, wanting to be rested for tomorrow. As I settled in, my phone buzzed. It was Eli. You sure about this plan? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. I'm sure, I typed. Good. Found something interesting about Greg Carver. What? His first wife, Rebecca? She filed a harassment complaint against him before their divorce. The company settled out of court and sealed the records. Another piece of the puzzle. Greg hadn't just cheated. He'd used his power to manipulate her, then silenced her when she fought back. Does Janine know? I'm sending her the details now. A serial predator. Tomorrow, it would all come out. I spent the rest of the evening reviewing the plan. Patricia would record them in the office at 6 p.m. Greg and Miranda would meet around 8. Janine would present the evidence, with a board member on our side. I'd arrive at 8:20 to inform Miranda that our marriage was over. At 8:25, Greg and Miranda would face the consequences. I set alarms, went to sleep, and for the first time in weeks, slept peacefully. The next day dragged on. By 5:15, I was watching Greg's Porsche pull into the garage, likely texting Miranda about their upcoming reunion. At 6:00, Patricia confirmed her position. At 6:30, Janine texted, "Board member confirmed. We meet at 8:10. At 7:15, Miranda pulled into the garage, looking excited, ready to celebrate her new life. I felt nothing, no anger, just cold satisfaction. At 7:45, I moved into position in the lobby, waiting. At 8:10, Janine arrived with a man I recognized from the company's website, Robert Martinez, chairman of the board of directors. He looked serious and slightly annoyed, like someone who'd been pulled away from dinner for an emergency. "You're sure about this?" he asked Janine as they approached. "Completely sure. Patricia has been documenting everything, and we have recordings, financial records, everything you'll need." Martinez nodded grimly. "If you're right about this, Greg's career is over. If you're wrong..." "I'm not wrong." They got into the elevator, and I followed 30 seconds later, taking the next car up to the 15th floor. The executive offices were quiet, except for voices coming from Greg's corner suite. Through the glass walls, I could see him and Miranda standing close together, champagne glasses in their hands. Patricia was at her desk outside Greg's office, her phone positioned to record everything. She looked up when she saw me and nodded slightly. "Couldn't have gone better," Greg was saying as I approached. "The clients loved the presentation, and the board is going to approve the expansion project next week." "And my promotion?" Miranda's voice was eager. "Already in motion. I'll announce the new VP position at the board meeting, and you'll be the obvious choice." "What about Janine? And Nick?" Greg laughed. "What about them? Janine will be fine. The divorce settlement will be generous, and she'll find someone else eventually. As for Nick..." He shrugged. "He's a nice guy, but he was never right for you. You need someone who matches your ambition." "I know. I just feel a little guilty about the way we're handling it." "Don't. You're taking control of your life. There's nothing wrong with that." I stepped into the doorway. Interesting perspective. They spun around, Miranda's champagne glass slipping from her hand and shattering on the floor. Greg's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, confusion, anger. "Nick?" Miranda's voice was barely a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "Collecting my wife, and watching a career implode." "I don't know what you think you heard," Greg started. "I heard everything. The Prague recordings, the financial records, the promotion promises, all of it." The elevator dinged behind me, and Janine walked in with Martinez and 2 other board members I didn't recognize. "Greg," Martinez said, his voice ice cold, "we need to talk." "Robert, what's going on?" "Patricia, please play the recording from this evening's conversation." Patricia tapped her phone, and Greg's voice filled the office. "The clients loved the presentation, and the board is going to approve the expansion project next week." "Stop," Greg said quickly. "This is a misunderstanding." "Play the Prague recording," Janine said. Patricia switched files, and suddenly the office was filled with Greg and Miranda's intimate conversation from their hotel room, discussing their relationship and future plans. Miranda sank into a chair, her face pale. "Oh no, no. "There's more," Martinez said. "Patricia has provided us with 3 months of expense reports showing company funds used for personal travel, hotel rooms, and gifts. We've also been made aware of your pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates." "This is a setup," Greg said, his composure finally cracking. "My wife is having an affair, and she's trying to..." "I'm pregnant," Janine said quietly. "And yes, it's not yours. But that doesn't change the fact that you've been embezzling company funds, and abusing your position to coerce female employees into relationships. Miranda wasn't coerced. She was promised a promotion in exchange for her companionship. That's textbook quid pro quo harassment. Martinez stepped forward. Greg, you're terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Expect a call from our legal department tomorrow morning. You can't do this. I've given this company 12 years. You've given this company 12 years of liability. Patricia, please call security. As Patricia made the call, I turned to Miranda. She was staring at her hands, tears streaming down her face. I found your letter, she said, without looking up. Good. I never meant for it to happen this way. Yes, you did. You planned every bit of this. The only thing you didn't plan for was getting caught. She finally looked at me, and for a moment, I saw the woman I'd married 8 years ago. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. I'm sorry, Nick. I really am. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry your plan fell apart. Sorry you're going to face consequences. But you're not sorry for what you did. Security arrived and began escorting Greg from the building. He was still protesting, still trying to explain, still convinced he could talk his way out of the situation. Miranda, Martinez said, you'll need to clean out your office tonight. Your employment is also terminated. She nodded numbly. I understand. As the office emptied out, I found myself alone with Patricia, who was packing up her recording equipment. Thank you, I said, for everything. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. Greg's going to lawyer up, try to minimize the damage. And Miranda, she shook her head. She's going to try to paint herself as the victim. Let them try. We have everything documented. Patricia smiled. Yes, we do. And I've been keeping records for a lot longer than 3 months. I left the building and walked to my car, feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Eli. How did it go? It's over, I typed back. Good or bad over? I thought about it as I drove back to my hotel. Miranda's career was finished. Greg was facing criminal charges and a very expensive divorce. Their relationship, built on lies and manipulation, wouldn't survive the pressure of public exposure and legal consequences. My marriage was over, but it had been over for months. I'd just been the last one to know. Good over, I finally replied. The next morning, I drove back to the house to collect more of my belongings. Miranda's car was in the driveway, but I didn't see her until I was loading boxes into my truck. She came out of the house looking exhausted, her hair unwashed, and her eyes red from crying. Nick? Can we talk? We're talking. I mean really talk about what happens now. I set down the box I was carrying. What happens now is we get divorced. You find a new job, hopefully in a different city, and we both move on with our lives. It doesn't have to be ugly. It's already ugly, Miranda. You made sure of that. She was quiet for a moment, watching me load my truck. For what it's worth, I did love you. I still do in a way. I know, but love wasn't enough, was it? You wanted more than I could give you. I wanted someone who understood my ambitions. No, you wanted someone who could advance your career. There's a difference. I closed the tailgate and faced her one last time. Greg's going to prison, Miranda. Maybe not for long, but he's going down for embezzlement and harassment. His wife is divorcing him and his career is over. Is that really what you thought you were trading up to? She didn't answer. You threw away 8 years of marriage for a man who was using you the same way he used his first wife and probably a dozen other women. You were never special to him. You were just convenient. I got into my truck and started the engine. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Miranda still standing there, looking lost and alone. 6 months later, I was living in a new apartment across town, running my own security consulting business and dating a woman named Lisa who worked at the coffee shop near my office. She was kind, funny, and refreshingly honest about what she wanted from life. I heard through Eli that Greg had pleaded guilty to embezzlement and received 18 months in prison. His divorce from Janine was finalized, and she'd moved to Portland with her new boyfriend and their baby. Miranda had left town after the divorce was finalized, reportedly taking a job with a small firm in Denver. I never heard from her again. Sometimes I wondered if I should feel guilty about how thoroughly we'd destroyed their lives. But then I'd remember the recording of Miranda planning to ambush me with divorce papers, or Greg's casual dismissal of his wife and my feelings, and the guilt would fade. They'd made their choices. I'd simply made sure those choices had consequences. The pause was over. The recording had ended. And for the first time in years, I was looking forward to what came next.